Welcome back, Michelle Taylor, President and CEO of United Way. And welcome to the two young women who are running Network Connection. Is that it?
Network Connection.
This fantastic initiative to address systemic racism. Erin, welcome to you, Erin Hutt and Cierra Hall. So nice to have you. And just taking in everything that's gone on in this nation in the last 7 or 8 months, I truly, in my heart, don't believe we're going to make genuine progress until we address systemic racism. So who would like to start here? Do you want to talk about the evolution of your nonprofit or your relationship with Michelle, and then we'll get on to a list of questions?
Sure. I'll jump in. So Network Connect is a baby. It's our passion baby. We are about 2 years old. We're a nonprofit housed in Wilmington, Delaware, with a statewide reach. We have been focused on cultural competent programming for youth since we started. Erin and I both co-founded and started this organization in 2019. We spoke to you about, both of us are very passionate about youth work. We've been working in the field, in multiple fields, mental health, homeless youth who are second language learners or English language learners, social work, you name it, we've done it. We both are Wilmington raised, HBCU graduates. And so it was programs like the ones that we started that helped build who we are today. And we wanted to see that work just grow. So it has been our mission to not only just provide programming or services, but to build capacity of the programs that have been around in our state for some time. Because we're younger and we're closer to that generation, we tend to know their interests and are able to be a little more creative than some of our elders, and we lend that creativity at any chance that we can. And that's how we begin to partner with United Way. They've been a champion in Delaware for years, since I was a little girl. And just being able to see them roll up their sleeves and really get involved in this issue is just priceless for Erin and I, because it's something that we've been focused on.
Erin, do you want to jump in?
Sure. I wanted to just say part of like our full circle with United Way, back in about, I want to say 2016, working with United Way on the Youth Advisory Council, we started this work. So it's not really a new relationship. And I was working and helping out with United Way on the Youth Advisory Council, and I brought Cierra with me to help with workshops. So we've been doing this for a long time. And I think that it's also important that we've had great mentorship. Like Michelle served as a great mentor. And I know like a lot of the racial issues that are coming up now, but to have strong Black women in leadership that provide a path for us is just like priceless, because we always know that we have the support of great people outside of United Way. We know that we have the support of Michelle Taylor, and we really appreciate that.
Gosh, Michelle, this has been on your radar screen for a long time, racial justice. You want to jump in?
Yeah, sure. So, I have to do this plug for Erin, talk about full circle. So I was Erin's, I think you were in 4th grade. I think I taught 3rd and 4th grade Bible study. And so I like to think, I was sewing into her, it's hard to believe. And then, Cierra just called me an elder, so I'm not sure about that anymore. But, we have been fighting for, I would say, fighting on behalf of individuals. I used to say that I'm fighting for those without a voice. And then, half of my career, I said, really, I'm fighting to help those find their own voice, right? And that we're just being the wind beneath their wings. And, in the words of John Lewis, who said, the work of racial equity and social justice isn't a work of a day or a week or a month or a year. It's work of lifetime. And sometimes multiple generations of lifetime. So, I am trying to make sure that I am running this race and making it better than what it was handed to me, but firmly being able to plant the baton in great leaders' hands like Erin and Cierra, who's going to have to run this race behind us, right? Because this is long-term work, and it is not going to solve tomorrow. And people who think that racism and systemic racism, that we can just check it off the box, or you can go to a training, or you can move it away, it's not going to happen. And to your point, though, we like to think in Delaware we can significantly move the needle, right? But the reality is, it has gone on years before us. I hate to say this, Erin and Cierra, and even for your own kids, they got a race to run so that they get prepared to pass the baton into them and make the generation better than what they had. And so we can't program our way out of this. This isn't about programming, right? This is really about being honest in a real authentic and genuine way, and acknowledging the fact that institutional practices have been holding back Brown and Black people for years.
Well, Michelle, from my point of view, until a majority of our population makes the commitment to, first of all, acknowledge systemic racism and the extent of it throughout our huge country and all different levels, nothing lasting is going to happen. And I really, it does my heart good to see bright, committed young people addressing this. But of course, I saw those people in the 60s in the civil rights movement. And when President Johnson, I was saying to the young ladies, signed the legislation, we all were so hopeful. And it all went so wrong, as we know, in the last 8 months. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about the initiative, the Racial Justice Collaborative. Who does it serve, and what are you doing?
So I'll just say this: it is for the community, by the community, right? And it is really meant to deal with and be a place where everyone, we want to encourage people to get off of the sidelines, right? Someone was telling me this.
Great.
Either you're either in or out, right? But you can't sit on the fence. And so really, we're hoping to create a place where people can see themselves, can bring their talents to the table in order to help to drive change. And we're not talking about just traditional organizations like United Way or the Boys and Girls Club or West End, but it's grassroots organizations like Network Connect, right? Like the Green Beret downstate, like CIT, like other organizations, right, that are actually in the community. It's not an either or, it's an and. And the work we're doing right now on multiple fronts. And you've heard us talk about so we relaunched the Racial Equity Challenge.
Yes, I was hoping you'd bring that up and address it, please.
Yeah, so right now, we did the 21-day Racial Equity Challenge in the fall. It's now a 5-day challenge, and it's one every month. We just finished up on Friday on Black History. I think next month is on the criminal justice system. Every month it's on something different. So we do hope that people will leverage the opportunity just to take the challenge, because that's about self-reflection, right? It gives people a chance to be able to reflect. And I would say, and I want Erin and Cierra to talk about this, but then at the same time, we're addressing the fact that we're thrown in this pandemic and this virtual environment, that our kids, right, that there is a significant gap, right? They already had a learning gap. It created a larger learning gap. Clearly, the research has reported that. And we're standing up things like the learning pods that are designed to help our kids to curb what I would consider any additional loss for this school year, but as we go into the summer next year, really be intentional about catching kids up.
Michelle, I have a question for you, though.
Okay.
Because you're more my age. As we look at this, but younger, as we look at this generation of young people, I was saying to Erin and Cierra, when I look at my children and their generation, all of their friends are diverse, they married one another, they seem so comfortable with one another all the time. Does that give us any kind of a head start? I mean, it's shocking that we're so far behind on addressing this. When we look at this generation of young people, why do you think that is, Michelle?
Well, I would like, I would have to tell you in some cases, I'm kind of equally surprised. I was thinking that my kids, right? So this generation that we have in front of them, because I would say Erin is the same age as my kids, right? That and Cierra is that they are more accepting. I think the whole movement, right, that we have done through the pride movement, LGBTQ, and the fact that it's gone so far, interracial relationships, right, have gone so far. My daughter-in-law is Hispanic, so my kids, we always laugh. They got the Latino side of them going on, and so I would thought that their generation is a lot more accepting. That pretty soon we really are going to have a melting pot, really,
Sure.
of kids within our community, and so their lens of things would be different. But clearly, when you look at things that happened in the last several years, I think it's still getting passed down from generation to generation to generation, right?
Yeah.
So it's happening on one scale, but I think some of the deep-rooted values that are taking place in some of the homes, it's still prevalent.
Right.
I don't know. What do you think, Cierra?
I think it's the death rattle of the Confederacy myself. I really do. I think this is, hatred goes long and deep, and we just had 4 years where it was encouraged. So, but let's let Erin and Cierra, I have about 1 million questions, so I'll be quiet.
I mean, I agree with both of you. I think, like you said, Michelle, when you get into a home, some of those biases, the 21-day equity challenge really focused on your individual bias that we all carry. And we hand those down. Those are inherited. And if we don't focus on them and really teach our children to even identify them, then we continue it. But a big thing that I think we work a lot with youth, like 90% of our day, Erin and I are with people who are 14 and under, or 17 and under. So a lot of the things that they see, they're proximal to a lot of the systematic oppression, more so than even us as millennials, because they're matriculating through school, because they have social services, things that they're receiving from their families. They're attached to these systems that weren't built for them and actually are helping to set them back, and they're wanting to learn and voice their opinions about how we make change.
Erin, do you want to jump in?
I just was going to say that I think that's why the learning pods are so important, because we actually get to build a family environment again and really pour into the kids information that is important. Like Michelle said, hatred is passed down, just like love is passed down, hatred is passed down. So if you're in the middle of a pandemic and you've been in the house for almost a year now, and you're just with people that all they talk about is hate, you don't have any positive outlet, you're in virtual schooling. I mean, it's just what it is. It's just for school. It's not for social interaction. It's not for mental support. It's not for any of those things. So I think that it all kind of ties in, like the learning pod, the racial justice, because the kids that we serve are so far behind. They were behind prior to the pandemic. And had it not been for learning pods, they might not have ever gotten caught up. So I think that it's important. And on top of that, the staff, I know specifically for us, we went from 1 learning pod in November, and by March, we're going to have 4 learning pods. We're teaming up with the Boys and Girls Clubs to open 3 more learning pods, as well as working with Great Oaks.
Erin, let me interrupt for a second. People may not know, all of them, exactly what a learning pod is. A safe space for students to gather, and why don't you explain?
So a learning pod, we actually call them a co-learning space, but a learning pod traditionally is just a safe space for kids to go outside of their home to log in for virtual school learning.
Great.
So we kind of provide additional resources like social emotional learning support, as well as breakfast and lunch. We add a little bit of recreational in there. That's why we team up with the Boys and Girls Club, keep the kids active. What else? And then we have supportive adults that can work directly with the kids to make sure that they are staying on task, and then that are also kind of serve as caseworkers to work with the families to make sure that the families are receiving the supports that they need during this time.
Sure. Now, what about, because these are short interviews, some of your additional goals here with the collaborative?
We want to save the world and all the people.
Yeah. So,
You know, little sis, I'll tell you.
But, we always say the goals, right, are this lofty. They're so lofty. They're this big, right? You just heard me say, right? How do I make the world better so I can pass the baton to this group of leaders, right? So they can run the next race. So it's all that stuff that's in between. But on short time, I just want to bring this point home, though, back to hate. So my 8-year-old granddaughter this summer got to experience the Black Lives Matter. The protest came right down her house, right on her street, right? And so, she's looking literally out her bedroom window and Black Lives Matter, and she's doing her thing. And later on the day, we're talking about the experience, and she's saying how she hates the police. No, she said, we hate the police, don't we? And we said, we don't hate police. We don't hate anyone, right? That's not what God wants us to do. So, but in her mind, I'm having to explain to an 8-year-old who really wants to understand why we don't hate police. And it's just another form of hate, right? And so that's just an example, Sharon, of how this stuff gets passed down, that when kids get thrown into environments, and the environments the influx were thrown into, and they see all this stuff happening around us, right? Their own feelings and emotions and perspectives, and in some cases, reality kicks in. And if we don't give them different experiences like Cierra and Erin are working to do with emotional and social and emotional supports and restorative practices, and having safe places for conversations and authentic and genuine ways that you can respect and value people's views, the view of right and wrong and the view of the value systems that we instill in our kids and in our community gets distorted.
I'm kind of worried, Michelle, about the damage that our generation might be able to do before we all depart the planet. I'm not worried about these young women here and their initiative. So how can we all get engaged? We have the Racial Equity Challenge. How else can people in the community, people of goodwill who really are concerned about this, people that
so a couple of ways. I think one, they could take the racial equity challenge. 2, they could just sign up to be a part of the DRJC. Right, there is a role and a place where we need their voice and their muscle and their advocacy, right, on helping to shape that. 3rd, I hate to see this, but places like these learning pods don't just happen without resources. And so we're still trying to raise resources to make sure people understand how critical these supports are in our community. And so, I would say if they went onto the DRJC website, they have an opportunity to join. They could join up for the racial equity. And that's I think the biggest long term, because being a part of the racial equity is a piece of it. And it might be the hook for some, but really we want people who understand they need to be a part of this work for the long haul. As you said, our generation, we still have a lot of work to do to still run this race. The baton is in their hands, right, on these legs that we do, but we want to still make sure it's firmly planted.
Cierra and Erin, let's give you a last comment here.
I wanted to say the committees are open to youth as well. We do have a full running youth committee under the Delaware Racial Equity Committee. And so I want to invite students, learners all over Delaware to join as well. And then as far as the learning pods and other things that Network Connect has going on, culturally competent ways to be involved, you can follow us online. Erin, that's your plug. Where else can they get more information?
Facebook, Instagram, you can sign up for an email blast, all types of ways you can get information. Our website, networkconnect.org.
I think we need to have several more conversations about this, because I want to know what these guys think about the role of social media in, both curing and spreading, the wrong information. So may I set something else up with you guys again?
Absolutely.
All right. And we can implant the link to the video on your site, the Racial Equity Challenge, and certainly the link to the DRJC. Michelle Taylor, thank you so much. Erin, thank you. Cierra, thank you. Appreciate it very much, and we'll be back soon.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.